Welcome. In this video, we're taking a calm journey into the life of one of the most influential artists in music history, Michael Joseph Jackson. From a small house in Gary, Indiana, to stages that lit up the entire world, this is a story of music, family, dreams, and quiet moments that shaped a legend. We'll walk through his early childhood, the sounds that filled his home, and the rhythm that would one day change everything. So settle in, relax, close your eyes if you like, and let the story gently unfold. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share in the comments where you're watching from. Let's begin. It's the late summer of 1958, and in the industrial city of Gary, Indiana, a baby boy is born. The air outside is thick with the smell of steel mills, the constant hum of factories working through the night. Gary is a city built on labor, a place where people work hard, come home tired, and dream quietly of something more. In a small two-bedroom house on Jackson Street, the Jackson family welcomes their seventh child. They name him Michael Joseph Jackson. The house is crowded. It always has been. Joseph and Catherine Jackson have a growing family, and space is something they don't have much of. But there's love here, and there's music. Catherine hums while she cleans. Joseph plays guitar in the evenings. The older children sing along, their voices blending in the warm, cramped living room. Music isn't just entertainment in this house. It's a language, a way of being together. Michael is a quiet baby at first. He watches everything with wide, curious eyes. Even as an infant, he seems to listen more than he cries. His mother, Catherine, notices this early on. When she sings to him, he stills completely, as if trying to understand not just the sound, but the feeling behind it. She rocks him gently, her voice soft and steady, and he gazes up at her with a look that seems far older than his age. The neighborhood around them is alive with sound. Children playing in the street, radios blaring from open windows, the distant clang of the steel mill that never truly sleeps. Gary is not a quiet city. But inside the Jackson home, there's a different kind of noise, a purposeful one. Joseph, who works long hours as a crane operator, comes home and picks up his guitar. He's a stern man, disciplined and focused. He believes in structure, in practice, in the idea that talent without work is nothing at all. The older boys, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, are already showing an interest in music. Joseph sees potential in them. He begins to teach them, not gently, but with a firm hand. He believes the world won't be gentle, so neither will he. They rehearse in the living room, the same space where Michael plays on the floor with his toys, listening without realizing he's learning. Catherine balances it all with warmth. She's a woman of deep faith, a Jehovah's Witness who teaches her children about kindness, patience, and devotion. While Joseph pushes them toward excellence, Catherine reminds them to be good people. Michael absorbs both lessons, even as a small child. He watches his father's intensity, his mother's grace, and somewhere inside, he begins to understand that both matter. By the time Michael is 3 years old, he's already mimicking his brothers. He moves when they move, claps when they clap. No one teaches him. He simply watches and learns. His brothers rehearse their harmonies, and Michael hums along from the corner of the room, his tiny voice surprisingly on pitch. Catherine smiles when she hears it. Joseph doesn't say much, but he's noticed too. The house is always full. 9 children eventually, all sharing rooms, all learning to navigate the closeness. There's Rebbe, the eldest and responsible one. Jackie, charming and easygoing. Tito, steady and reliable. Jermaine, confident with a smooth voice. Latoya, observant and quiet. Marlon, close in age to Michael, almost like a twin. Randy, the youngest boy. And Janet, the baby of the family, who will come a bit later. They argue sometimes, laugh often, and always, there's music. Michael learns to walk in that house, his small feet padding across the worn carpet. He learns to talk, though he's never the loudest child. He's more inclined to watch and absorb, to take things in quietly before acting. His mother calls him sensitive. His brothers sometimes call him shy. But when music plays, something shifts in him. His body responds before his mind does, moving naturally, instinctively. One evening, when Michael is about 4 years old, the family is gathered in the living room. Joseph has the boys practicing a song, going over the same section again and again. Michael is sitting on the floor, supposedly playing with a toy car. But his attention is elsewhere. He's watching his brother's feet, the way they step in time with the beat. He's watching their hands, how they snap on the offbeat. And then, without announcement, he stands up. He starts to move, not clumsily the way most 4-year-olds move, but with a precision that makes everyone stop and look. He's mimicking James Brown, a performer he's seen on television, but he's adding something of his own. His small body hits every beat, every accent. His brothers stop singing. Joseph lowers his guitar. Catherine walks in from the kitchen and stands in the doorway, dish towel still in her hands. For a moment, the house is completely silent, except for the record player in the background. Then Jermaine laughs, not mockingly, but in surprise. "Did you see that?" he says. Jackie nods slowly. Tito's mouth is slightly open. Joseph doesn't laugh. He watches Michael with a different expression, one of calculation, of recognition. He sees something that can be shaped, something that can be used. From that moment, Michael isn't just a little brother watching from the sidelines. He's brought into the group. At 5 years old, he's standing with his older brothers, learning choreography that would challenge kids twice his age. He doesn't complain. He simply does it. And more than that, he does it well. The rehearsals become more frequent. Joseph is exacting, demanding perfection. If they miss a step, they do it again. If the harmony is off, they start over. It's not easy, and it's not always fun. But there's a purpose to it, a goal. Joseph believes his sons can be something more than factory workers. He believes they can escape Gary, can make something of themselves. And Michael, even at 5 years old, feels the weight of that belief. School becomes secondary. Michael attends Garnet Elementary School, a local public school where he's just another kid in the classroom. His teachers find him polite, quiet, and attentive. He does his homework, doesn't cause trouble. But his mind is often elsewhere. He thinks about rhythms, about melodies, about the way his brothers' voices blend together. He doodles musical notes in the margins of his notebook. At recess, while other kids play tag or kickball, Michael sometimes stands to the side and practices moves. He spins, tests his balance, tries to see how fast he can move his feet. Other kids notice, and some of them gather around to watch. He's not showing off, not exactly. He's just working the way his father taught him to work. But the attention doesn't bother him. In fact, there's a part of him that comes alive when people watch. Back at home, the living room has become a rehearsal studio. The furniture is pushed aside to make space. Joseph sets up a makeshift stage area. The boys practice for hours, even after they've been at school all day. Michael is the youngest in the group, but he's quickly becoming the center of it. His voice, still high and pure, cuts through in a way that's impossible to ignore. And when he dances, he doesn't just follow the choreography. He adds to it, finding little moments to spin, to slide, to hit an accent that no one told him to hit. Catherine watches these rehearsals with mixed feelings. She's proud, of course. Her sons are talented, and Michael especially seems to have a gift. But she worries too. He's so young, and childhood is so brief. She makes sure he eats enough, sleeps enough. She hugs him often, reminds him that he's loved not for what he can do, but for who he is. Michael clings to those moments, to his mother's softness in a world that's becoming increasingly focused on performance. The Jackson 5, as they're starting to be called, begins performing locally. Small talent shows, community events, school functions. They wear matching outfits that Catherine sews herself, simple but coordinated. They stand on small stages in gymnasiums and community centers, and they perform with a professionalism that seems beyond their years. Michael, at 5, then 6, then 7, stands front and center. He sings lead on several songs, his voice clear and powerful despite his small frame. People are surprised every time. A child that young shouldn't be able to command a stage like that, shouldn't be able to make eye contact with the audience and draw them in. But Michael does. There's something natural about it for him, something that feels right. When he's performing, the shyness falls away. He's not the quiet kid from school or the sensitive son who clings to his mother. He's someone else, someone confident and alive. The family starts traveling on weekends, loading into a cramped van to drive to different cities for performances. It's not glamorous. They eat fast food, sleep in cheap motels, sometimes all piled into one room. But there's an excitement to it, a sense that they're building towards something. Joseph drives with determination, his jaw set, his eyes on the road. The boys sleep in the back, or they sing to pass the time. Michael often sits quietly, looking out the window at the passing landscape, watching the world go by. In these moments, when no one's watching him, Michael is just a kid. He thinks about cartoons he wishes he could watch, games he'd like to play. He misses being home sometimes, misses the simplicity of just being in his room with his toys. But he doesn't say any of this out loud. There's a sense, even at this young age, that complaining won't change anything. So he keeps it inside, lets it settle somewhere deep, and when it's time to perform, he pushes it all aside and becomes what he needs to be. By the time Michael is 8 years old, the Jackson 5 is gaining real traction. They've won several talent competitions. They're making a name for themselves in the Midwest. People who see them perform start talking. Word spreads. They're not just good for kids. They're good, period. Michael's voice has developed a soulfulness that seems impossible for his age. When he sings, you believe him. When he moves, you can't look away. Joseph books them into larger venues. They start opening for established acts, performing in clubs that normally wouldn't allow children in the audience, let alone on stage. But exceptions are made because the Jackson 5 is undeniable. They perform in smoky rooms filled with adults, and they win over every crowd. Michael learns to read an audience, to feel when they're with him and when he needs to pull them back. It's an instinct he's developing, a skill that no one's teaching him, but that he's acquiring through sheer repetition. At home, life continues its dual rhythm. There's school during the day. Michael is now at Buckley Elementary, and rehearsals in the evening. Catherine tries to maintain some normalcy. She cooks dinner, insists they eat together when possible. She helps with homework, makes sure they're keeping up with their studies. But the balance is shifting. Music is no longer just a hobby or even a passion. It's becoming a career, a responsibility. Michael's relationship with his father is complex. Joseph is not affectionate, doesn't offer praise easily. He sees his role as preparing his sons for a harsh industry, for a world that won't coddle them. So he doesn't either. Mistakes in rehearsal are met with criticism, sometimes harsh words. The boys learn quickly that perfection is the expectation, not the goal. Michael internalizes this. He becomes a perfectionist himself, critical of his own performances even when others think they're flawless. But there's also respect there. Michael understands in his own way that his father is pushing them because he believes in them. Joseph gave up his own musical dreams to support his family, and now he's investing everything into his son's success. It's not gentle, but it's not without love either. Michael sees his father work long hours at the mill, then come home and work even longer hours managing the group. He sees the sacrifice, even if he doesn't always feel the warmth. With his mother, it's different. Catherine is his refuge. She's the one who sits with him when he's anxious before a show, who prays with him, who reminds him to stay humble and kind. She teaches him about their faith, about treating others with respect, about the importance of inner peace. Michael absorbs these lessons deeply. They'll shape him throughout his life, this foundation of spirituality and compassion that his mother lays down in these early years. There are happy moments too, moments when they're just a family. Sunday mornings when they attend Kingdom Hall and sit together, dressed in their best clothes. Holiday gatherings when relatives come over and the house fills with even more people, more laughter, more music that's just for joy, not for practice. Birthday parties where for a brief time, Michael gets to just be a kid eating cake and opening presents. But these moments are becoming rarer. The Jackson 5 is on the cusp of something bigger. They're about to move beyond Gary, beyond Indiana, beyond the small stages and talent shows. In 1968, they'll get an opportunity that will change everything, an audition for Motown Records in Detroit. But that's still ahead. For now, in these last moments of relative simplicity, Michael is still a boy living in a small house on Jackson Street, learning his craft, developing his gift, and slowly becoming the performer that the world will one day know. The seasons change in Gary. Summer heat gives way to autumn coolness, then winter cold. The steel mills keep running, the city keeps working. Inside the Jackson house, the rhythm continues. Practice, school, practice, perform, practice again. Michael's childhood is not typical, but it's the only one he knows. He doesn't think of it as unusual. This is just life. The sound of his brother's voices harmonizing, his father's instructions, his mother's gentle corrections, the feeling of moving to music, the thrill of performing. And somewhere in all of this, in the repetition and the discipline, and the rare moments of pure joy when everything comes together perfectly on stage, Michael Jackson is becoming who he'll be. Not all at once, but slowly, steadily, with each rehearsal and each performance, adding another layer. The little boy from Gary, Indiana, with the wide eyes and the quiet demeanor, is learning to become something more. He's learning that music isn't just something you listen to, it's something you embody. That performance isn't just about technique, it's about connection. That the stage isn't a place to be afraid of, it's a place where you can be most fully yourself. These lessons are being written into him during these early years, inscribed in his muscle memory and his heart. And though he doesn't know it yet, though he can't possibly understand the scope of what's coming, he's preparing. Every step, every note, every moment of practice in that cramped living room is preparing him for a life that will be extraordinary in every sense of the word. But for now, on a quiet evening in Gary, Indiana, he's just Michael, 8 years old, standing in front of his brothers, hitting his marks, finding his light, and feeling, for those brief moments when everything aligns, like maybe he's exactly where he's supposed to be. The year 1968 arrives with a sense of possibility. Michael is now 9 years old, still small for his age, but carrying himself with a confidence that seems to grow each time he steps on stage. The Jackson 5 has been performing steadily throughout the Midwest, building a reputation that's starting to reach beyond their immediate area. People talk about them, the 5 brothers from Gary who can really perform, and especially that youngest one, the one with the voice that doesn't seem to belong to a child. It's a summer evening when everything begins to shift. The family receives word about an opportunity in Detroit. Motown Records, the legendary label that's produced some of the biggest names in music, the Supremes, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, is holding auditions. Joseph sees this as the moment they've been working toward. He gathers the boys, and they prepare with even more intensity than usual. This isn't a local talent show or a club performance. This is the door they've been trying to reach. The drive to Detroit feels longer than it actually is. The boys sit in the van, some nervous, some excited. Michael is quiet, looking out the window as the landscape passes. He's been to many auditions by now, but he understands that this one is different. His father's tension is palpable, his mother's prayers more frequent. They arrive at Motown's headquarters on West Grand Boulevard, a building that looks almost modest from the outside, but holds such weight in the music world. Inside, they wait. There are other acts auditioning, other hopefuls who've traveled from various places with the same dream. The Jackson 5 sits together, the boys in their matching outfits that Catherine has carefully prepared. Michael watches everything, taking in the atmosphere, the other performers, the way people carry themselves here. There's a professionalism to this place, a seriousness that matches what his father has always demanded. When their turn comes, they step into the audition space. Michael can feel his heart beating faster, but it's not fear exactly, it's anticipation. They've practiced so much that the performance is almost automatic now. The music starts, and they move into their routine. Michael takes the lead on several songs, his voice filling the room with a power that seems impossible from such a small frame. He dances, hitting every mark, adding those small flourishes that make the performance special. The Motown executives watch with expressions that are hard to read. They've seen countless acts, heard countless voices. But there's something about this group, something about the youngest one especially, that makes them pay closer attention. When the performance ends, there's a moment of silence and then questions. They ask about the boys' ages, their experience, their schooling. Joseph answers confidently, positioning his sons as professional, disciplined, ready for whatever comes next. The family drives back to Gary not knowing what will happen. Days pass, then weeks. They continue their regular schedule, school, rehearsals, local performances. Michael goes through the motions, but part of his mind is elsewhere, wondering if Detroit will call, if that audition meant anything. Then the call comes. Motown wants to sign them. Not just for a single or a trial, they want to develop the Jackson 5 as a major act. The news hits the household like electricity. There's celebration, tears of joy from Catherine, a rare smile from Joseph. The boys jump around, yelling, laughing. Michael feels a rush of emotion he can't quite name. Excitement, certainly, but also something else. A recognition that life is about to change in ways he can't fully imagine. The practical reality set in quickly. Signing with Motown means relocating to California, where the label is expanding its operations. It means leaving Gary, the only home Michael has ever known. It means leaving friends, extended family, the familiar rhythms of their neighborhood. For a 9-year-old boy, even one as focused on music as Michael, this is significant. But the family makes the decision. This is the opportunity they've been working toward, and they're going to take it. The preparation for the move becomes all-consuming. Catherine packs up their household, sorting through years of accumulated belongings. The boys finish their school year, saying goodbye to teachers and classmates. Michael walks through Buckley Elementary one last time, knowing he won't return. Some kids are jealous, others are impressed. A few understand that he's leaving for something big, but none of them, not even Michael himself, truly understands what's coming. In the late summer of 1968, the Jackson family loads their belongings into a moving truck and begins the journey to California. They drive across the country, the landscape changing from industrial Midwest to open plains to desert to finally the palm trees and sunshine of Los Angeles. Michael watches it all from the van window, this massive country they're crossing, thinking about how far they're going from home. Los Angeles is overwhelming at first. It's bigger than Gary, brighter, faster. Everything moves with an intensity that takes adjustment. Motown sets the family up in a house, helps with the logistics of the move. The boys are enrolled in new schools. Michael attends Gardner Street Elementary in Hollywood. Walking into a California school is different from Indiana. The kids dress differently, talk differently. Michael is the new kid, and despite his growing confidence on stage, he's still shy in regular life. He sits quietly in class, does his work, doesn't draw attention to himself. But word spreads quickly. The other students learn that he's with Motown, that his group is going to be recording. Suddenly, kids want to be his friend, want to sit with him at lunch. Michael isn't sure how to navigate this. He's friendly but cautious, never quite certain if people like him for himself or for what he represents. It's a dynamic that will become familiar throughout his life, the difficulty of knowing who's genuine in a world where his fame makes him valuable. The real focus, though, is the music. Motown assigns the Jackson 5 to their artist development program, a rigorous training system that polishes every aspect of their performance. They work with choreographers who refine their movements, vocal coaches who perfect their harmonies, stylists who craft their image. It's more intense than anything they experienced in Gary, more professional, more demanding. But the boys rise to it, especially Michael. He soaks up everything like a sponge. The choreographers show him a move once, and he's got it. The vocal coaches give him direction, and he adjusts immediately. There's a natural musicality to him that impresses even the seasoned Motown professionals. He watches everyone, the engineers in the studio, the songwriters crafting hits, the other Motown artists when they come through. He's learning not just how to perform, but how music is made at the highest level. The recording sessions begin. Motown studios are legendary, and walking into them for the first time feels sacred to Michael. This is where so many of his heroes have recorded, where magic has been made. The Jackson 5 works with Motown's top producers and songwriters, the Corporation, a team specifically assembled to create hits for the group. They're given songs that have been crafted with precision, designed to showcase Michael's voice while featuring the whole group. Michael approaches recording with the same intensity he brings to rehearsals. He wants to get it right, wants to deliver exactly what's needed. Sometimes they do dozens of takes, working on a single phrase until it's perfect. Michael never complains about this. If anything, he's the one pushing for one more take, hearing something that could be better even when everyone else is satisfied. The producers notice this, his perfectionism, his dedication. He's 9 years old, but he works like someone much older. Their first single is released in the fall of 1969. The response is immediate and overwhelming. Radio stations across the country add the song to their playlists. It climbs the charts rapidly, reaching the top spot. The Jackson 5 isn't just successful, they're a phenomenon. Suddenly they're everywhere. Magazine covers, television appearances, radio interviews. The demand is insane, and Motown mobilizes to meet it. Michael's life becomes a whirlwind. School becomes secondary, something he does when there's time, often with tutors rather than in a regular classroom. His days are filled with rehearsals, recordings, photo shoots, interviews, and performances. He's performing on television shows he used to watch as a kid, meeting celebrities he used to see only on screen. It's exciting and exhausting in equal measure. The group's next singles follow the same pattern: immediate success, massive popularity. They're breaking records, making history. 4 consecutive #1 hits from their first 4 singles, something that's never been done before. The Jackson 5 becomes one of the biggest acts in America, and Michael, at just 11 years old, is at the center of it all. The performances get bigger. They're no longer playing small clubs or community centers. Now it's arenas, massive venues filled with thousands of screaming fans. The first time Michael walks out on stage and sees that sea of people all there to see them, it's almost overwhelming. The noise is deafening, the energy palpable. But once the music starts, he finds his center. This is what he knows, what he's trained for. The size of the crowd doesn't matter. The connection is the same. Touring becomes a major part of their life. They travel constantly, crisscrossing the country, eventually going international. Michael sees cities he's only read about in school: New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, and later London, Paris, Tokyo. Each place is a blur of airports, hotels, venues, and stages. He's experiencing the world, but in such a compressed, intense way that it's hard to really take it in. Everything is scheduled, managed, controlled. The fans are intense, mostly young people, teenagers and preteens, who scream throughout the performances, who wait outside hotels hoping for a glimpse, who send thousands of letters. Michael is fascinated by this, the connection they have with people they've never met. Girls cry when they see him, reach out trying to touch him, call his name over and over. It's flattering but also strange. They think they know him, but they only know the version of him they see on stage or in magazines. In quieter moments, Michael thinks about what he's missing. Other kids his age are playing after school, riding bikes, hanging out with friends without security guards. He's living in hotels, practicing choreography, doing interviews where he's learned to give polite, carefully worded answers. There's a part of him that wonders what normal childhood is like, but another part that can't imagine doing anything else. Music is his normal. The stage is where he feels most himself. The relationship with his brothers is evolving. They're family, but they're also co-workers now, colleagues in a high-pressure business. There's still love and connection, but there's also competition. tension. Michael is clearly the standout, the one who gets the most attention from producers, from media, from fans. The others are talented too, but Michael is special, and everyone knows it. His brothers handle this with varying degrees of grace. Sometimes there's resentment, other times pride. It's complicated as family always is, but amplified by the intensity of their shared career. Joseph continues to manage them with the same strict discipline. He's with them constantly now, overseeing everything. His approach hasn't softened with success. If anything, he's more demanding. He sees what they've achieved and wants to ensure they don't get complacent, don't lose their edge. The rehearsals are still grueling, the expectations still sky high. Michael understands that this has gotten them where they are, but there's also a growing tension, a sense that maybe there could be a different way. Catherine tries to maintain some sense of home life. She travels with them when possible, makes sure they're eating properly, getting enough rest. She continues their religious education, reading scriptures with them, praying together. She's concerned about the toll this lifestyle is taking, especially on Michael, who's so young and carrying so much responsibility. She watches him carefully, looking for signs of strain, trying to protect him even as the machine of fame and success rolls forward. The money starts coming in, significant money. The family moves to a larger house in Los Angeles, in a better neighborhood. There are luxuries now that were unimaginable in Gary: new clothes, nice cars, comfortable living. But for Michael, these material things aren't what matters most. He cares about the music, about perfecting his craft, about the connection with audiences. The success is validating, but it's not the end goal. He's already thinking about what's next, how to get better, what more he can learn. In the recording studio, Michael is increasingly involved in the creative process. He asks questions about production techniques, about how certain sounds are achieved. The engineers and producers are initially amused by this curious kid asking technical questions, but they quickly realize he's genuinely interested, genuinely learning. He has opinions about arrangements, about which takes are best. At 11, 12 years old, he's developing the ear and the instinct of a seasoned professional. Television becomes a major platform for the Jackson 5. They appear on all the big variety shows, perform on award shows, eventually get their own animated cartoon series. Michael learns how to work with cameras, how his movements need to adjust for television versus live performance. He watches playback of their performances, critiquing his own work, seeing what works and what doesn't. He's always studying, always trying to improve. School continues sporadically. Tutors work with the boys on the road, trying to ensure they keep up with their education. Michael is a good student when he has the time and focus. He likes reading, is curious about history and science. But it's hard to concentrate on homework when you're recording an album or preparing for a tour. Education becomes fragmented, something that happens in the margins of his real life, which is music. By 1971, the Jackson 5 is firmly established as one of the biggest groups in the world. They've released multiple albums, had numerous hit singles, sold out arenas. Michael is 12 years old and has accomplished more than most artists do in a lifetime. But there's a restlessness in him, a sense that there's more to explore. He starts thinking about solo possibilities, about different kinds of music he wants to try. Motown recognizes this and begins developing Michael as a solo artist alongside the group work. His first solo single is released in 1971, and it too becomes a major hit. Michael is excited about this, the chance to try different material, to have creative control over his own sound. The solo work is different from the group dynamic, more intimate, more personal. He can explore aspects of his voice and style that don't always fit with the group format. Balancing the group work and solo work becomes another layer of complexity. There are Jackson 5 commitments, recordings, tours, appearances, and now solo commitments too. Michael's schedule becomes even more packed. He's essentially doing the work of two careers simultaneously, and he's still just a kid. But he doesn't complain. This is what he wants, what he's chosen. The tiredness is real, the pressure is real, but so is the satisfaction of making music that people connect with. The touring continues, year after year. They play to massive crowds around the world. Michael sees how music transcends language, how audiences in Japan or Germany or Brazil respond to their performances even if they don't speak English. It's a powerful realization for him, understanding that what they're creating has universal appeal, touches something fundamental in people. But the touring takes a toll. The constant travel, the lack of routine, the inability to just be still somewhere and rest. Michael starts to feel it, the exhaustion that comes from never stopping. There are moments on the tour bus or in hotel rooms late at night when he feels a loneliness that's hard to describe. He's surrounded by family and staff, but there's an isolation to his experience, to being Michael Jackson, that no one else fully understands. He finds solace in small things, reading books when he has time, watching films which he loves, the escapism of stories, the craft of performance in a different medium. He's fascinated by performers like Charlie Chaplin, by dancers like Fred Astaire. He watches their work, studying their technique, their ability to convey emotion through movement. These become his teachers in a way, these artists from another era who understood something fundamental about performance and connection. As Michael enters his teenage years, around 13 and 14, new challenges emerge. His voice is starting to change, the natural process of puberty affecting his instrument. This is terrifying for him. His voice has been his identity, his tool, the thing that set him apart. Now it's shifting, becoming unpredictable. Sometimes it cracks in the middle of a performance or a recording. He's embarrassed by this, frustrated. The vocal coaches work with him, assuring him that this is natural, that he'll emerge with a different voice but one that's still powerful. But the uncertainty is difficult. His appearance is changing too. He's growing taller, losing the cherubic child look that was part of his appeal. He becomes self-conscious about his looks, particularly about his skin and his nose. These insecurities plant seeds that will grow throughout his life, but they're starting here, in these adolescent years when he's hyper-aware of how he looks, because so much of his life is about being looked at. The relationship with Motown starts to show strain. As the Jackson 5 matures, they want more creative control, more say in their music. But Motown operates within a specific system, one that's been successful for them. The label wants to continue the formula that's worked, while the group wants to experiment, to grow. Joseph, always protective of his son's interests, begins to clash with Motown executives over contracts, royalties, and artistic direction. By 1975, these tensions have reached a breaking point. The Jackson 5 has been with Motown for 7 years, and while those years brought massive success, there's a sense that they've outgrown the relationship. Negotiations happen, sometimes heated. Michael is now 16, old enough to understand the business side of music, to see the complex negotiations happening around him. The decision is made to leave Motown. It's not easy. There's history there, relationships, gratitude for the opportunity Motown provided. But there's also a need for growth, for evolution. The group signs with Epic Records, a subsidiary of CBS. It's a fresh start, a chance to reinvent themselves. But there's a complication. Motown owns the name Jackson 5, so they become the Jacksons, moving forward without the 5, symbolically marking this new chapter. Michael looks back on these Motown years with complex feelings. They were transformative, the period when he went from being a talented kid from Gary to being an international star. He learned so much about music, about performance, about the industry. But he also sacrificed so much of what would have been a normal childhood. No school dances, no little league games, no lazy summer afternoons doing nothing. Every moment was structured, purposeful, directed toward the career. Was it worth it? At 16, Michael doesn't really ask that question. This is his life, the only one he really knows. The success, the music, the connection with audiences, these things are real and meaningful. But so is the exhaustion, the loneliness, the sense that he's missed something he can never get back. As the Motown chapter closes and a new one begins, Michael stands at a crossroads. He's no longer a child star, but not quite an adult artist yet. He's proven himself as part of a group, but he's hungry to prove himself as an individual. The next years will test him in new ways, push him to find his own voice, his own identity separate from his brothers. But that's ahead. For now, in these last moments of 1975, Michael Jackson is 16 years old, famous beyond imagination, talented beyond measure, and still, in some fundamental way, trying to figure out who he is beyond the performances, beyond the hits, beyond the name that's known around the world. The boy from Gary has become an international phenomenon. The journey from that small house on Jackson Street. The journey from that small house on Jackson Street to the stages of the world has been rapid, intense, and irreversible. And now, as he stands on the edge of young adulthood, Michael carries all of it with him, the lessons, the scars, the triumphs, and the questions about who he'll become next. The transition from Motown to Epic Records in 1975 brings both freedom and uncertainty. Michael is 16 now, and the move feels symbolic of something larger, a stepping away from childhood, from the system that shaped him, towards something he'll have more control over. The Jacksons, as they're now called, have to rebuild in some ways. They're established stars, but they're also starting fresh with a new label, new producers, new expectations. The first challenge is creative. At Epic, they're promised more involvement in their own music. This is what they wanted, but it also means more responsibility. Michael and his brothers, particularly Michael and Randy, start writing songs, experimenting with production ideas. It's exciting, but also intimidating. They've been performers for years, but creation is different. It requires a different kind of confidence, a willingness to put your own ideas out there and risk them being rejected. Michael throws himself into learning the craft of songwriting and production. He spends hours in the studio, even when he's not recording, just watching, listening, asking questions. How do you layer vocals to create that particular sound? What makes a bass line groove? How do you structure a song so it builds to the right emotional peak? He's absorbing everything, building a knowledge base that will serve him throughout his career. The family dynamic is shifting too. Michael is now a teenager, dealing with all the normal adolescent challenges, but in an incredibly abnormal context. His brothers are getting older, some of them getting married, starting to think about lives beyond just the group. Jermaine has actually stayed with Motown, having married Berry Gordy's daughter, creating a family rift that's painful for everyone. The group that once felt unified is becoming more complicated, pulled in different directions by individual desires and ambitions. Michael's relationship with his father remains tense. Joseph is still managing them, still demanding, still critical. But Michael is starting to push back in small ways, asserting his own opinions about music and creative direction. He's not rebellious exactly, that's not his nature, but he's finding his voice, learning to trust his own instincts. Joseph doesn't always take this well. He sees it as questioning his authority, his judgment. The arguments, when they happen, are intense. And so, we've reached the end of another history story. I hope this journey through the calm waters of the past has relaxed your mind and prepared you for a peaceful sleep. Thank you for sharing these moments with me as we get lost together in the depths of history. Each video is a story from the dusty pages of the past, and each story is crafted to be a lullaby just for you. If you enjoyed this video and it helped guide you towards sleep, please don't forget to hit that like button to support me. Subscribe to the channel to discover more of history's monotonous yet mesmerizing tales and drift off to sleep each night with a whisper from the past by your side. Make sure to turn on notifications so you'll be instantly alerted when new videos are uploaded. Feel free to share in the comments which historical topics you'd like to hear about. Every suggestion you make could inspire the next video. Now gently close your eyes, take a deep breath, and surrender to the night. I wish you peaceful nights, sweet dreams, and a wonderful sleep in the embrace of history. Until we meet again on our next historical journey. Good night.